There comes a time in life when the soul whispers louder than the noise of the world, asking why peace feels distant, why rest never truly comes, and why energy seems to fade without reason. This is not because you lack strength, but because invisible forces are silently draining the essence of your being. The truth is, energy is sacred. It is the foundation of creativity, intuition, love, and alignment with the universe. Yet it is so often leaked in places where it does not belong. You may not even notice, but every thought, every habit, every hidden pattern holds the power to either nurture you or strip you of your divine vitality. Ask yourself, how many times have you given your peace away to the weight of expectations? How often has comparison robbed you of your joy? How often has unspoken resentment eaten away at your inner calm? Your soul cannot rest because it remembers who you are meant to be. It calls you to release what no longer serves you. It urges you to take back the pieces of yourself that you gave away too freely. When you stop pouring your light into empty spaces, you reclaim your energy. When you stop chasing validation, you awaken self-trust. When you silence the voices of doubt, you finally hear the voice of your higher self guiding you toward wholeness. Rest will not come from the world outside, it will come from within. The moment you recognize the leaks in your energy, you gain the power to close them. And when you do, your soul will no longer feel restless. It will feel radiant, aligned, and free. Energy is sacred, protected from hidden leaks. To understand this, you must recognize that energy is not simply about physical strength or how much you can do in a day. It is the invisible currency of your life. Everything you think, feel, speak, or give to others is an investment of energy. Every decision you make either preserves your light or slowly drains it away. The sacredness of energy lies in the fact that it determines not only the quality of your daily life, but also the very path of your destiny. Yet most people treat their energy as if it were limitless, scattering it across distractions, unhealthy connections, and unnecessary struggles until they wake up wondering why they feel so tired, restless, or uninspired. The hidden leaks of energy are rarely loud or obvious. They slip into your life quietly, unnoticed, like small cracks in a vessel that slowly drain the water. At first, you may not feel the loss, but over time you realize your joy is diminished, your creativity is dulled, and your sense of purpose is clouded. Protecting your energy is not about withdrawing from the world or avoiding responsibility, but about becoming conscious of where your essence is being spent and whether it serves your highest self. One of the greatest hidden leaks is the energy poured into overthinking. The mind, when left unchecked, creates endless loops of doubt, regret, or fear. Hours can pass while you replay conversations, imagine scenarios, or worry about outcomes that may never arrive. Each thought carries weight, and when you continually feed cycles of negativity, you drain your own reservoir of peace. Protecting your energy here means disciplining your mind, not in the sense of force, but with gentle awareness. When you notice the spiral, you remind yourself that presence is stronger than speculation. What has not happened yet does not deserve the power of your life force. Another invisible leak is the giving of yourself without boundaries. Compassion and generosity are beautiful, but when they flow without limit, they leave you empty. How often do you say yes when your heart longs to say no? How often do you give time, attention, or care at the cost of your own well-being? Every unnecessary yes chips away at your sacred energy, and every moment of self-betrayal teaches your soul to settle for less than what it deserves. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is self-honoring. When you respect your own needs, you do not diminish your ability to give, you strengthen it, for you can only pour from a cup that is full. The company you keep also determines the flow of your energy. There are people who uplift you, expand you, and remind you of your light, and there are others who drain you, not always intentionally, but through constant negativity, comparison, or need. Being around energy draining environments is like standing in a room with no air. You find yourself struggling to breathe, your spirit grows heavy, and your own light begins to dim. Protecting your energy requires discernment. You do not need to surround yourself with perfection, but you must be mindful of the energies you allow into your space. Your inner sanctuary is sacred ground, and not everyone deserves access to it. Unspoken emotions create another quiet leak. When you silence your truth, when you swallow your pain, or when you hide your anger behind a forced smile, you expend more energy holding it all in than you would if you expressed it with honesty. Emotional suppression is heavy, it weighs down the soul and keeps you restless. Protecting your energy means giving yourself permission to feel, to release, and to transform your emotions into growth rather than letting them fester into exhaustion. Another hidden drain is comparison. When you measure your worth against the lives of others, you hand your energy over to illusions. You forget that each soul walks a unique path, that what is meant for one may not be meant for another, and that your timeline is sacredly your own. Comparison steals joy by convincing you that you are behind, not enough, or lacking in some way. But in truth, your energy becomes magnetic when it is fully centered on your own journey. Protecting your energy means celebrating your progress, however small, and honoring your individuality as divine. Technology and constant stimulation are modern day leaks of energy as well. Endless scrolling, chasing notifications, and consuming meaningless content scatter your focus and numb your spirit. You may not realize it, but every moment of overstimulation robs you of presence. Your mind becomes restless, your nervous system overworked, and your inner peace fragmented. Protecting your energy in this realm means creating space for silence, for reflection, for being instead of constantly doing. Stillness is not emptiness, it is the soil where your sacred energy regenerates. Perfectionism, too, drains more energy than it gives. The relentless pursuit of flawless outcomes keeps you trapped in cycles of stress and self-criticism. Every task becomes a battlefield where your worth is measured by results rather than authenticity. This not only exhausts your energy, but also blinds you to the beauty of imperfection, which is where growth and true connection are found. Protecting your energy requires embracing progress over perfection, valuing the journey rather than exhausting yourself for the illusion of flawlessness. Past wounds, when left unhealed, create silent drains as well. Old traumas, regrets, and unresolved pain take root in your subconscious and continue to feed on your energy. Even when you think you've moved on, fragments of your energy remain trapped in those moments until you consciously release them. Protecting your energy means daring to face the past, not to dwell on it, but to free yourself from it. Healing closes the leaks that memory alone cannot. And finally, perhaps the greatest hidden drain is the refusal to rest. In a world that glorifies constant movement and productivity, rest is often mistaken for laziness, yet it is in rest that energy is restored, creativity is reborn, and the soul finds balance. Without true rest, not just sleep but soulful stillness, you run endlessly yet arrive nowhere. Protecting your energy requires honoring rest as a sacred act, as vital as breath itself. Energy is sacred. It is the pulse of your existence, the breath of your spirit, the force that carries you toward your destiny. Every leak, no matter how small, keeps you from the fullness of who you are meant to be. To protect it is to honor your soul, to reclaim your radiance, and to step into the life you were created to live. Comparison and overgiving silently weaken the soul. It happens so quietly that you may not notice it until the weight becomes too heavy to carry, until your energy feels thin, until your heart feels restless despite all the effort you've poured into living a good life. These two patterns, measuring yourself against others and giving beyond your limits, are like invisible threads that tie you down, slowly draining your light while convincing you that this is simply the way things must be. But the truth is that comparison and overgiving are illusions. They promise belonging, validation, and acceptance, yet they leave you empty, questioning yourself and unable to rest in your own power. Comparison begins in small, subtle ways. You look at the path of another and suddenly your own journey feels too slow, too uncertain, too incomplete. You see the highlight reels of others, success, beauty, achievements, love, and in the mirror of their lives you measure your own worth. This silent drain robs you of presence. Because every moment spent in comparison is a moment stolen from gratitude. The soul cannot flourish when it is constantly being judged by someone else's story. Each time you measure yourself against another, you deny the uniqueness of your own design, as if your soul's blueprint was a mistake, as if your timeline is somehow wrong. Yet the universe does not create errors. You were not born to replicate another life. You were born to embody your own. Comparison not only drains your joy, but also clouds your vision. When you are busy watching the pace of another, you lose sight of the steps you need to take on your own path. You invest energy into envy, resentment, or longing, none of which serve you. Your soul becomes restless because it knows you are giving away your power. True peace comes only when you return to yourself, when you accept that your journey is sacredly yours. The flowers do not rush to bloom because the one beside them has already blossomed. Each unfolds in its own time, in its own season, and each carries beauty simply by existing as it was meant to. Overgiving is another silent drain, one that often wears the mask of kindness, loyalty, or love. It tells you that to be worthy, you must always be available, always give more than you have, always place the needs of others above your own. At first, overgiving feels noble, as if sacrifice is proof of love or compassion. But over time it hollows you out. You pour and pour until nothing remains. And when you look within, you no longer recognize yourself. The soul weakens when it is consistently neglected, and every time you give at the expense of your own well-being, you teach yourself that your needs do not matter. That belief slowly erodes your energy, leaving you exhausted, resentful, and restless. The danger of overgiving is that it convinces you that boundaries are selfish. It convinces you that your worth is tied to how much you can do for others, how much you can carry, and how much you are willing to sacrifice. But the truth is, a depleted soul cannot give freely. When your energy is drained, your giving is no longer pure. It is laced with resentment, frustration, and exhaustion. The most powerful gift you can offer the world is not endless sacrifice, but the radiance of a soul that is whole, nourished, and alive. True generosity does not come from depletion. It flows from abundance. Comparison and overgiving often intertwine, feeding each other. You may overgive because you are comparing yourself to an image of who you think you should be. The perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect leader. You may push yourself to exhaustion to meet invisible standards, all in the hope of being seen, accepted, or validated. But the more you give from emptiness, the more invisible you feel. The more you compare, the more you believe you must give endlessly just to be enough. This cycle drains your soul until you feel like no matter what you do, it is never enough to silence the restlessness within. Your soul longs for balance. It longs to be seen not through the eyes of others, but through the truth of its own light. It longs to give, not from obligation, but from overflow. It longs to walk its path without being weighed down by the illusion that someone else's story diminishes its own. When comparison and overgiving take hold, rest becomes impossible because the soul is never allowed to simply be. It is always striving, always reaching, always giving away what it does not have. To protect yourself from these drains, you must learn to pause and listen. Ask yourself, am I giving from abundance or from emptiness? Am I honoring my own journey or am I measuring it against someone else's? Am I sacrificing my peace in order to fit an image that was never meant for me? These questions are not easy, but they are necessary, for they shine a light on the places where your soul has been weakened. Awareness itself begins the healing process. The moment you see where your energy has been leaking, you gain the power to redirect it, to restore it, to guard it as sacred. When you stop comparing, you reclaim your joy. You begin to see your life as whole, unfolding, and purposeful, even if it does not look like anyone else's. When you stop overgiving, you reclaim your strength. You begin to give in ways that nourish both you and others, ways that leave you energized rather than depleted. And when you break free from both, you allow your soul the rest it has been craving. Comparison and overgiving are quiet thieves, but they lose their power the moment you recognize them. Protecting yourself from them does not make you selfish, it makes you sovereign. It returns you to the truth that your life is sacred, your energy is precious, and your soul deserves to flourish without being weakened by illusions that were never meant to define you. Unspoken emotions drain peace more than external chaos. The storms outside may rage, but they are nothing compared to the storms that live within when words remain unsaid and feelings remain buried. Silence is often mistaken for strength, for control, for composure, but the truth is that silence can become a prison. Every time you swallow your truth, every time you push down your tears, every time you smile while your heart aches, you create an inner battlefield that no one else can see. The world may look at you and believe you are calm, but inside, your soul is restless because it carries the weight of emotions that were never given voice. External chaos is loud, disruptive, and temporary. It may shake you, but it passes. Inner chaos, however, lingers. It builds quietly like pressure behind a dam. You can continue to hold it for days, months, even years, but the longer you do, the heavier it becomes. And what drains you is not the weight of life itself, but the energy you expend in holding it all in. Suppressed emotions demand energy to maintain. Every smile that hides your pain, every nod that hides your disagreement, every silence that hides your truth drains you little by little. The act of pretending costs more energy than the act of expressing. There is a belief that to feel deeply is weakness, that to speak your pain is to burden others, that to reveal your vulnerability is to lose control. And so you learn to store your emotions in hidden corners, convincing yourself that time will dissolve them. But time does not erase what is unspoken, it buries it deeper. And buried emotions do not disappear, they leak into your energy, your relationships, your choices, and your health. They manifest as restlessness, tension, exhaustion, and disconnection. The soul cannot rest when it is carrying unexpressed truths. Think of how often you have held back tears in moments when crying would have been the release your spirit needed. Think of the words you have swallowed because you feared judgment, rejection, or conflict. Think of the times you felt anger but told yourself it was better to remain silent, better to keep peace on the surface even as turmoil grew within. Each of those moments may seem small, but they accumulate. They form a heavy layer over the soul, a quiet suffocation that no one sees but you feel every day. Unspoken emotions drain peace more than external chaos because they keep you at war with yourself. When you silence your truth, you divide yourself. One part of you feels the emotion, but the other part denies it. One part longs to speak, but the other forces silence. This inner conflict consumes your energy. It is not the emotion itself that weakens you, but the act of resisting it. Emotions are meant to move. They are energy in motion. They arrive to be felt, to be honored, to be released. When you block their flow, you trap them inside and they turn into heaviness, into resentment, into numbness. The soul craves honesty. Not only honesty with others, but honesty with yourself. To admit what you feel does not make you weak, it makes you human. To allow yourself to cry, to shout, to grieve. To confess is not failure, it is freedom. Yet so many carry the belief that silence keeps things safe. They fear that if they speak, they will lose love, or if they cry, they will lose respect, or if they reveal their truth, they will lose control. But what is truly lost in silence is peace. What is sacrificed is freedom. What is drained is the very energy that could be fueling your healing and your growth. Even in relationships, unspoken emotions create distance. When you do not share your feelings, others cannot truly know you. They may see your surface, but they do not feel your depth. Over time, the silence builds walls. Resentment grows not because of what was said, but because of what was never said. Words unspoken become wounds that never close, and the relationship suffers not from conflict, but from emptiness. The peace you try to preserve by remaining silent becomes the very peace you lose. There is courage in speaking. There is liberation in expression. Not every emotion needs to be shouted into the world, but every emotion deserves to be acknowledged. Even if it is only whispered to yourself, even if it is only released in the pages of a journal or through tears that no one else sees, expression sets the soul free. The energy that was once trapped in silence becomes fuel for clarity, strength, and renewal. Imagine how different life would feel if you allowed your emotions to flow as naturally as breath. Imagine if instead of suppressing sadness, you let the tears cleanse you. Imagine if instead of hiding your anger, you gave it voice in a healthy way that honored your boundaries. Imagine if instead of burying your joy out of fear of judgment, you let it radiate. Each emotion has a purpose, a message, a lesson. To silence them is to silence yourself. To release them is to align with your soul. External chaos is fleeting. A storm passes, noise fades, conflict resolves. But the chaos inside persists until you face it. The weight of the unspoken follows you into every moment, stealing your rest, dimming your light, draining your peace. The soul is not weakened by what happens around it, but by what it refuses to release within. The moment you give yourself permission to feel, to speak, to release, you end the war. You stop pouring energy into silence and begin to reclaim your strength. Unspoken emotions are not harmless. They are the hidden chains that keep the soul restless. They convince you that you are strong because you carry them, but true strength is not in carrying, it is in letting go. The peace you seek will never come from controlling the world outside. It will come from honoring the world within, from listening to your emotions, from expressing what your soul has longed to say. Only then can you rest. Only then can you be free. True rest comes from alignment, not from escape. So many people spend their lives chasing moments of relief, believing that rest is found in distraction, indulgence, or temporary pauses. They collapse into their beds at night, scroll endlessly through screens, or fill their schedules with activities meant to numb the mind, all in search of rest. But what they experience is not true restoration. It is only temporary escape. The soul cannot be renewed by running away. It can only be renewed by returning home to itself, to its truth, to its alignment with the life it was meant to live. Escape feels restful in the moment. You binge, watch, you sleep for hours, you scroll until your mind grows numb and you may believe you found relief. But the next morning the heaviness returns, the stress resurfaces. The emptiness remains. That is because escape treats the symptoms, not the cause. You can silence the noise for a while, but silence is not peace. Rest does not come from numbing what is broken. It comes from aligning your life so that you no longer have to numb it. Alignment is the state in which your thoughts, your actions, your values, and your spirit are moving in the same direction. It is the place where your inner world and outer world are not at war. In alignment, rest is not something you chase. It is something you embody. When you are out of alignment, everything feels heavy. Work feels draining. Relationships feel confusing. Choices feel overwhelming. You move through the day, but each step feels like resistance. No amount of sleep or distraction can heal this, because the exhaustion does not come from your body alone. It comes from your soul. Your energy is drained not because of how much you do, but because of how much you do that goes against your truth. You may rest physically, but your spirit is still restless. That restlessness is the whisper of your soul calling you back into alignment. True rest feels different. It is not the heaviness of collapse, but the lightness of ease. It is not running away from life, but stepping fully into it with clarity and peace. When you are aligned, even hard work can feel energizing. Even challenges can feel purposeful. You wake with energy not because you avoided your problems, but because you are living in harmony with your deepest truth. Alignment does not mean life is perfect. It means your soul and your actions are in agreement. That agreement is where true rest lives. Consider the difference between sleeping 8 hours after a day spent living out of alignment and sleeping 6 hours after a day spent living in your truth. In the first, you wake still tired, heavy, uninspired. In the second, you wake refreshed, even if the hours of sleep were fewer. This is because the quality of your rest is determined not by how long you escape, but by how aligned you are when you return to yourself. The body rests through sleep, but the soul rests through alignment. Without alignment, no amount of escape will ever feel enough. So many people believe that rest means doing nothing. But true rest is not inactivity, it is activity that nourishes you rather than drains you. Reading a book that inspires you, creating art that expresses you, walking in nature that grounds you, or simply breathing deeply in stillness, these are forms of rest because they connect you back to yourself. They align you with your essence, with the rhythms of life, with the quiet wisdom of your own spirit. Escape, by contrast, numbs you. It distracts you from yourself rather than reconnecting you. That is why escape never satisfies for long. It can only mask what misalignment continues to cause. The world often glorifies escape. Vacations, weekends, entertainment, all are presented as the solutions to exhaustion. And while there is nothing wrong with enjoying these moments, they cannot give you the lasting rest your soul craves if your daily life remains misaligned. A week away will not heal what you return to if what you return to is chaos, dishonesty, or disconnection from your purpose. Rest is not found in the absence of work, but in the presence of meaning. It is not found in avoiding responsibility, but in aligning your responsibilities with your values. It is not found in running from life, but in living life in a way that honors your truth. Alignment requires honesty. You must ask yourself, am I living a life that reflects who I really am, or am I living to meet expectations that are not my own? Am I working at something that drains me because it pays the bills, or am I moving towards something that energizes me because it fulfills my soul? Am I in relationships that honor my spirit, or am I holding on out of fear of being alone? These questions are not easy, but they are the doorway to alignment. Without them, you remain trapped in escape, always searching for rest, but never finding it. With them, you begin the journey toward a life that restores you daily, not just occasionally. True rest is not a place you visit, it is a state of being you create. It is built moment by moment, choice by choice, truth by truth. When your actions match your values, when your relationships reflect your worth, when your work expresses your gifts, when your inner voice guides your outer life, rest becomes natural. You no longer crave constant escape because you no longer live in constant resistance. Your days may be full, but they are fulfilling. Your nights may be short, but they are peaceful. Rest is no longer something you seek, it is something you carry. Alignment restores what escape cannot. It restores joy because you no longer feel like you are betraying yourself. It restores energy because you are no longer pushing against the current of your own truth. It restores peace because you no longer silence the voice within. The soul longs not for distraction, but for authenticity. It longs not for avoidance, but for alignment. That is why true rest will always come when you stop running from your life and start living it in harmony with who you truly are.